Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. It is Marvin speaking. Going back to the Airbnb and a lot of conversations, especially by Duncan, in sometimes why didn't basically any of the witnesses, independent witnesses, come forward and say they saw basically Jay, Abe, Rocky, and whoever else was there. And a little bit of information basically did come into myself and Ali that basically that we need to be talking about the other property that Romans got in El Tank, which we believed that was also used just as much as what this Airbnb is used. Thinking back, and what the messenger said is at the end of the day, which wants to remain private. I think that there's a possibility that basically we could be getting it wrong, and that Jay, there's a massive possibility Jay was actually taken there, and this is why there isn't no independent witnesses at the Airbnb, although they want us to think that they were all there, and that was probably one of the reasons why they technically didn't go inside, or there was no pictures inside, though it was fraudulently, I think, fraudulently booked because Abe knew Roman. But if you ask me, the information that I've got from a private messenger at the end of the day, who said basically they were all technically at one stage all El Tank, I think it makes a lot of sense. So El Tank Tenerife refers to both a town in the northwestern part of the island and a unique cultural space in the capital city, Santa Cruz. It's important to distinguish between the two as they offer different experiences. El Tank Town, this is traditional mountain village, is located in the Tino Mountains and offers tranquility and nature. What to do? Hiking, explore various routes to the fascinating Teno Mountains and the surrounding volcanic landscapes. Camel rides, take a ride through the volcanic landscape and farmland areas. Mirador's viewpoints, visit Mirador, Loma Molina, which is Ali's mentioned as well, La Italia for panoramic views of the north coast of the Atlantic Ocean and the Tide volcano. Sounds beautiful, doesn't it? Experience the main exhibition hall, which is a massive former oil tanks used for contemporary art installation. A banana palm garden, wander through an outdoor garden featuring banana trees. Art installation, view thought provoking and cutting edge art installation within unique industrial settings. Location Santa Cruz to Tenerife. Costs many exhibitions are free. So that is something about obviously visiting El Tang, but obviously we're here for different reasons. I do think what I've heard from this private messenger that I do think Jay was actually here at the time people think he was, to be honest with you. And I think the other, basically Airbnb, the property which had the green door, which looked a little bit like this Airbnb in Masca, is not really the one we should be concentrating on. I think myself and Ali have got 99% of the story now in why this is all happening. And the people involved, they're much more involved than what you actually think. And it's a lot darker than what you think as well, which is good. But like I said, I think the way you have to put things out is very, very, very careful for people to actually get the correct message. Let's move on, people. So we move on to more of the private messages. So someone says, "Hi Marvin, hope you're well. Please keep this confidential, and we are dealing with criminal world here. Definitely." I saw a post by Squiggles ref to Jay owing 65,000 to Brandon and her contact working as recovery partner. This reminds me of a vid by Duncan a year ago and could have connections, names as Mark Gorham, Brad's father, Stephen and Alan Tart. There is a message, could be by 80. Jay owed money to Mark and Jenny, wife. The GoFundMe was set up to pay them. They wanted 38,000 because of the attention it's brought to them. Jay did not attack Tom H. He wasn't doing rugs in Tenerife. Everyone lying and steering their good name. Alan thinks that Debbie wants to paint Jay as a saint. Very, very interesting stuff there. Very, very interesting. I mean, there's a lot of names involved. And what you realize about this case, everyone's very, very interconnected. And what I've heard, which I can't put it out there, it's absolutely just shocking, to be honest with you. But like I said, the problem is actually proving it. I do believe these people, but I also think that you have to be very, very careful in what you put out there. So that was an interesting one. Let us move on, people. Welcome back to part 3, people. And this is technically a write-up report that DSS Spencer, one of the people that was looking into Jay Slater's mobile phone. So it goes on to say a mobile phone will work off 4G and 5G. DS Spencer said, what your phone is doing is looking around for the strongest signal or connection, which will generally be a mast on the street or on the top of a building. Radio frequencies work in different ways. With a house router at home, with coverage is a very small, so you'll see it disconnects when you walk out of the front door. With a phone mast, it is a lot bigger than that. Dear Spencer explained that 8:27 a.m. Jay's phone battery was just 3%, and the most likely outcome is that the phone had died during Jay's subsequent video call with friend Lucy. I mean, he said subsequent, he didn't say actual, did he? After Jay's body was repatriated back to Lancashire, his mobile phone was handed over to Lancashire police. Yesterday, during the first day of the resumed inquest, the coroner heard from Detective Sergeant Nick Spencer from Lancashire Constabulary, who heads up the force digital unit. The detective explained how cell site data was used to track Jay's last movement, and he left the Airbnb masker in an attempt to walk back to the Palama Beach apartments. Okay, a couple of things here. I don't think Jay at that time had that phone. I think someone else did. I think someone else did that walk as though Jay was actually there, or pretend to be there. Because don't forget, all they would have to do is just to get on a path for maybe 5-10 minutes, walk a little bit, and be picked up in a car. And could it have been the videos where all those cars were stopping, and that could be them sort of planting information as though Jay was actually there with his phone, but he wasn't. That's a massive possibility on that, and that would also make a lot of sense. Dear Spencer goes on to say, who presented his unit examination of Jay's phone using a lengthy color-coded spreadsheet, also displayed a series of maps to show which mobile phone mast Jay's phone connected with. However, he warned your phone will look for the strongest signal and connections, and that doesn't necessarily always mean the closest one. Fair enough. I've walked to the White Cliffs of Dover and then down on the beach, and my phone connected to a cell in France. Interesting stuff. He then goes on to say, Dear Spencer, who presented the unit examination of Jay's phone using a lengthy color-coded spreadsheet. But interesting, but like I said, he didn't really sort of elaborate on that. And that is, I just wanted just a little bit more information. But like I said, it just seemed a bit, should I say, only like 60-70% of it. The last ping from Jay's phone, when it connects to the network to log data, usage for billing data was around 8:42 a.m. When asked how frequently a phone will ping, DS Spencer explained they are very regular when abroad because it's roaming. All right, interesting stuff. And all this is doing is giving us data of what that with a phone is roundabout, and technically that it was in the area of Masca. That's what it's technically saying, people. Just seeing whether there is any other more information on that. No, that is everything on that, people. So we're going to look into the streamline messages. I thought most things of looking into where Jay was, times, his mobile phone. I thought everything was very, 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 very vague, and not enough talked about the stuff that was actually found with him. I mean, if you look at his trainers, if you look at the bag, there's a lot of things which just looks too new to me and touched, which is really, 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 really strange. But like I said, I think when you look at the magnitude in this case and what goes on, it's undeniably something seriously, seriously wrong. Seriously wrong with the case and what we've been told. Let's move on to the streamline messages. Thank you. Welcome to the community messages. So PGM says, according to Debbie Duncan, the trolling got so bad she was even sent horrible Photoshop images of Jay. Yet, when a photo miraculously appeared in his inquest showing a clearly Photoshop image of Jay in the back of the car, she and the barrister didn't once question it. I watched the interview today on Good Morning Britain, and my heart breaks for her, but I wish she would open her eyes to what is really happening. Look, I mean, she's going on all these channels in basically getting her side of the story across. I agree, there are really, really nasty trolls. But once again, a lot of people did try to help her as much as possible, working out into what happened to her son. I'm only reading the ones I haven't read, people. Don't know how Snapchat works on dead batteries, but I know sending a message on WhatsApp, if your phone dies, a sending when turned back on, it shows as undelivered, and you have to resend the message. It doesn't automatically send over. That's a really, really good point. And like I said, I don't think it ever made sense, that last message. And I do think it was to tell us at the end of the documentary that Jay had definitely had an accident. That was the narrative, and that is the narrative they wanted you to accept and believe. It's just as simple as that. Personally, I don't believe it, but everyone else has got their narrative on what they think what happened to Jay. Tina Gooner Girl, all Jay's photos IMO filtered. He looks completely different in the video footage. Him in NRG and walking with Brad at the pool. He looks different, but all photo, main one circulated, are touched up and filtered to the max. Why is everyone using these photos, especially Debbie, and she's not saying nothing about them? It's not reality, says Tina Gooner Girl. Corrine says, all BS. I would hope that if it was my child, I'd hope the last text would have been to the partners. Yeah, real good point. Very, very good point indeed. And like I said, if he was ever in trouble, why didn't he call his mum? That's the first thing. If he was in trouble, or he's got in trouble, he owed someone a debt, I'm sure if he'd rang his mum or his dad, they would have bailed him out or given him something to tide over until this was all resorted. You know, that is the one of the biggest problems in this case. Another thing is that, obviously going back to the Airbnb as well, is that when you don't get any other independent witnesses that are basically saying that, oh, I saw a group of people there this morning arguing, I passed in the car, or that morning I saw something. But the problem is, what you've got to remember is no one saw Lucy. Nobody saw nobody saw Lucy. Nobody saw the girl that was supposed to have given her a lift up there. Nobody saw Ayub, apart from the owner, who said basically that Ayub was at the front door. Well, technically Ayub was there, but it was only Ayub who was actually given the story that he saw the owner, her son and her husband, and they were carrying a wheelbarrow. Anything else, it's bizarre, because we got one side saying something, and then we got the other side, the owner, saying something, and it doesn't, it doesn't really correspond in what we're being told is the truth. I certainly don't believe it anyway. Caroline says, I think Logan and Crispy have different agendas for searching for Jay, looking at their backgrounds and past. Dan the Rabbits, I think he got warned off and so did 180. MWC also covered a lot of home truths again, suddenly did 180, deleted his content. Harsh also, he changed his mind overnight. Also, Callum didn't something happen to him. Mama D stopped reporting on this case with the comments and doxing. Mariana had threats, so her and her family over this case. I believe Joseph Morrow too got targeted and stopped. Don't forget Luggy and his crew are very friendly with Ayub Luggy. It's also quite friendly with Lucy. And we all know that she was up to with the others abroad. Debbie Duncan did the right thing to close down the first kangaroo inquest, wanting the main witnesses to be there in person. I agree. Then she's having a meal with Lucky, Crispy, and Warren and Zach, and starting or doing a documentary. I think IMO, there was a lot of bad things coming out about Jade's past and his friends and what was actually happening on the holiday. So they saved their own skins and tried to whitewash it all with the help of Lucky and Crispy. It's a shame that Jay had died in vain, covering up rug dealers and their wealth. They are still carrying on, no remorse from them. Great point, Caroline. Great point. The thing is what I heard is the next step up. I was only maybe unsure about who was included in this case. I think I'm maybe about 85%. I'm 99%, myself and Ali now are 99% sure what actually happened in our minds, what we were told. And like I said, the people involved are way more involved than what you think. And this is what it boils down to. This is the point. And it gets very, very dark as well. Very, very dark. That it's absolutely shocking. Some of the stuff we told, but you just cannot put it out there because, like I said, Debbie had said that she was happy with it being, well, not happy, should I say? That's the wrong word in saying that, but content, should I say, in that it being an accident, and she's technically happy with what the coroner's report come up with. We do know that basically Warren is unhappy, but I think he has to go along with Debbie, and he seems to just want to get on with his life and let his son rest in peace, which is fair enough. But like I said, one thing I do know is that the doxing and people of people, these are because these people have got value information and putting it out there. I think when you mention the Mariana, absolutely brilliant, Joseph Morris, and don't forget he was on this case very early and was getting a lot of messages, much like Mamadou as well was getting a lot of messages in the days, and they were proper on it, Mariana as well. But it tells you everything, that there's a lot of bigger organization than this at the end of the day. But I think one thing that shocked me, Caroline and Streamliners, is how how big this really is. And like I said, when you see people who did come out, like the young woman who was on EP, so you have to take them very, very seriously in what they're saying and what they couldn't talk about. Very, very seriously. People don't forget that. Very, very important. Because like I said, these scenes will come up again, because it's a roller coaster of events that will keep happening and happening and happening. It's just that we're more familiar and understand what goes on in Tenerife now, put it that way. The comment is on point. Caroline, you're dead right. Thank you. It says Annette. Thank you very much. We all got to keep talking, keep it going, because if not, it will happen. Sean, without a doubt. Well, it's in some ways, Annette, is still happening again. But what it is, we don't know about it. You're right that adults, the parents, need to keep the kids safe when they are traveling abroad or even in our country. Brilliant messages and support for the youngsters as well. It's like I said, nothing shocks me in this world, but I think if you understood what I know now about what these people are about and how heavily they're involved. Very, very, very scary. Very scary. I can tell you that much indeed. But like I said, all we got to do is just keep educating people as much as we want. Don't forget to subscribe to Streamline Entertainment and Investigations, and we move on, people. Thank you very much indeed.